Hi guys, welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. And today guys, today is going to be the top 10 series that I hope to complete this year. I actually hope to complete way more than just these 10. But if I am down to the wire, gotta make a choice, these are the top 10 that I am most excited to complete. They're not really in any particular order. I think the ones near the top are probably higher priority because they're the ones that came to mind first and I didn't have to add. I'm in the middle of several series. I'm not actually in the middle of that many more than 10. I mean, it is more than 10. But many of the series I'm in the middle of aren't finished. And so none of those are on this list. If the series is not completed yet, like all the books aren't out, then I'm not even counting. So that I had an even smaller pool to draw from at that point. So without wasting any more time, let's get down to business. Let's go ahead and talk about which series that I plan to complete in 2022. So the first series on this list is probably no surprise to anybody, Boosh, Shadow of the Apt by Adrian Tchaikovsky. As of the end December of 2021, I had read 4 of the 10-book series. This is going to be not the hardest, because they're really easy to read, and I am obsessed with them. But it's 6 more books, and all of them are like 600 plus pages, which I don't like. But I do plan to get through these. Shadows of the Apt, if you do not know, is about a kind of industrial revolution type setting where magic, technology is kind of taken over magic, and all the people are based on insects. They evolved alongside their insects, so like the wasp can fly, and their sting, they can like hurl fireballs, and the beetles are like the artificers, and they can like cling to stuff, and the ants communicate via telepathy. It's freaking cool. But that is all just the window dressing for a story that literally engages in a world war. The Wasp Empire is trying to take over everything, and just the sheer scope of what Tchaikovsky did in his debut novels. These were his first books. So I am just a huge fan. I love the characters. I love the war. I love the technology. I love the themes that it talks about. Definitely high on my priority list. So the next series that I plan on finishing in 2022 is Boosh, the Raven's Mark trilogy by Ed McDonald. This began with Blackwing. I've only read the first one. It's a trilogy, thank goodness, and none of them are super long. I read Blackwing as one of the books that Leanna and I did for the TBR exchange, and I loved Blackwing. Probably the biggest surprise of the year. It has gunslinger, Borderlands, detective novel, Lovecraftian, like all thrown together. And with like a kind of steampunk Victorian post-apocalyptic aesthetic. It was so good. And there was a mystery at its heart, and the magic is through, I forget exactly what it's called, lumens? I don't know. The magic is through light bulbs. They have to have like these light batteries to cast like this light magic, and the batteries explode like one of those old-timey cameras when they use it. And the premise of this series is there are these great old ones, or these, they're kind of like the 10 who were taken from the Black Company. And one's called Crowfoot. He is a tattoo on the main character's arm, and he when he needs to talk to the guy, he just pops out, and there's blood everywhere, and it's just creepy, and there's horror, and everything is dirty, and it's just a bleak environment with like, tech and magic left behind by these, deities or whatever. And they're fighting like the Sea Kings or whatever they're called, these other ones that are out in this like blighted place. And it was just really, really good. Like complete surprise. That's definitely high on my priority, especially since there's only 2 more books and they're relatively short. I have a review for Blackwing. If you haven't seen that, you should definitely, if any of that sounded interesting, you should definitely give it a go. Next, and probably the highest priority on this list, is the Dagger and Coin series by Daniel Abraham. Last June, I read Dragon's Path. I'm actually have the audiobook. I'm going to re-listen to this because Daniel Abraham is such an incredible plotter. He plots everything from the beginning to the end. And so, as a result, some of the first books can seem kind of slow, but his character work is second to none. Daniel Abraham writes these kind of put upon, down on their luck characters better really than anybody that I know. And this one is also dealing with branches of fantasy banks, and there's a guy who bleeds spiders, which is... And the magic, a lot of the magic deals with the ability to manipulate, like, the truth of things, which is just freaking cool. I am so irritated that my obligations overtook me and I was unable to finish this series. Daniel Abraham is one of my favorite authors. Long Press Quartet is one of my favorite series. I am currently reading Age of Ash, so TBD. I want to read everything that Abraham's written, so I definitely am going to finish this, and I want to finish it, like, early on in 2022. But this is definitely... I cannot imagine making this video or the check-in video at the end of the year and me having not finished this series. There are 4 more books. It is a 5-book series, so I have a ways to go, but I'm bound and determined. Okay, so next on this list is Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. It gets even worse. This is a 6-book series, of which I've only read the first one. So 5 books remaining, and they get progressively chonkier. This is de Castell's YA series about a teenager who isn't good at anything. And there's 2 types of people in their little mage society, the people that can do magic and the people that can't. And poor bro can't do any magic and sucks. And he, literally everything he does, he sucks at it. And this woman from, like, this nomad people that is really kind of like the Wild West, and she's got, like, magic cards. She's a cowboy named Farius Parfax. She shows up, and hijinks ensue. This book is way darker than you think it's going to be to start with, especially since it's a YA novel. And I read this book in 2 days, and it was so much swashbuckling fun. Initially, I liked it less because I didn't know what to expect, because I love Greatcoats, still one of my favorite series. And there is a talking animal in this, which I don't love talking animals in books just in general, but this one is particularly unpleasant. And longtime watchers, you know how little I enjoy unpleasant characters. So I hated this animal thing. I think time has been kind to this book. I love de Castell's writing style. I love how fast it is. I love how gangbusters the plot goes, how swashbuckling everything is. I love the snappy dialogue. I just wish the main character was not so pathetic. He's terrible at everything. Anyway, this is also high on the priority list because de Castell is one of my favorite authors, and I want to finish this because he's got 2 prequel books, in this series that I also want to get to. So, definitely going to try to finish Spellslinger as well. It's been a hot minute since, I think it's March, since I read freaking Spellslinger. So, I also got in on audiobook, and Joe Jameson, doing the little teenager's voice, he's fantastic. I didn't listen to any of the Greatcoats audiobooks, but just from the sample of Spellslinger, he's so good. So, I'm really loving audiobooks for rereads. Alright, so those are really the 4 main series that I want to finish that I've started. These next 6 are... I want to finish them, but they're not as high priority as these first 4. So, the next one is a brand new one to this list, and that is Rhyria Revelations. I loved Crown Conspiracy. I had to read it. It was my patron choice, and I loved it. Again, swashbuckling fun. Some of it's ridiculous. The most monologuing villains of all time, but by goodness did I not walk away completely endeared to the world, to the characters, to just how little this book takes itself seriously, and yet how much I still cared. It was a really easy read, and I'm so tired of everything being so dark and dour and hard to get through and just heavy. Absolutely along for the ride. There are 5 more? I thought there were 3 more because, you know, there's 2 to each bind up, and there's 3 bind ups, so I have 5 left. But they're short. Crown Conspiracy, 311 pages. Definitely want to get through this. This is probably... You know what? I'll probably put this series also in the top. So those are my top 5. And these other 5 can be in any order to finish as I can. So next on the list is the Under the Northern Sky trilogy. This is by Leo Carew. His first book is The Wolf, which I read with Leanna back in July as part of Shelf Space and TBR Swap. And I liked it. To me, it definitely felt like a debut in where Carew does not really trust the audience to remember anything, so he's constantly reminding us of crap that we, you know, you said that 2 pages ago. You don't have to keep reminding us. But I did love the military aspect and the kind of general versus general, and then someone within their own army who is also against the general, like these two competing people within the same army, and then competing against the enemy. And it's all kind of based on those anthropological roots of what if the Neanderthals never died out and, you know, they lived in Britain and then the Saxons came and tried to throw them out or whatever. So I enjoyed The Wolf, and book 2 is called The Spider, and the character we met when we met the Spider in The Wolf, I was like, oh no, man, no, just walk away from this guy. Like, don't mess with this guy. I'm excited to where book 2 is going to go. And the reason this is on the list is book 3, The Cuckoo, is coming out later this year, and so I might as well read it, catch up, and then maybe Leanna and I can read The Cuckoo at the same time, maybe, and have a discussion about it. And so that's really why this one beats out some other series, perhaps, just because the last one's coming out this year, and, you know, maybe can collab. Next on this list is the only sci-fi that appears on this list. I think that's probably because I'm not in the middle of any sci-fi except this one, and that's the Hyperion Cantos. I read Hyperion in September and had a live show discussion with both Evie and Angela from Literature Science Alliance, and then Evie from She Was Only Evie. And I had read Hyperion before, and I've actually read Fall of Hyperion as well, but I don't remember anything about it. And I like Hyperion. Hyperion is a little high-minded for my tastes, and all the short stories are not created equally. But I love the world that's been set up. I love that Dan Simmons makes us feel like there are this hundreds of years of history, and the Shrike is one of the coolest antagonists in fiction. And so I had read the first 2 before, but I don't remember Fall of Hyperion, so I definitely want to get to that. And then I had never read the Endymion books, Endymion and Rise of Endymion, which I hear are not as good as the Hyperion books, but all part of the Hyperion Cantos, and I want to experience the whole story and see what I think afterwards. So I'm going to try to get to this one, hopefully before the end of the year. Next on the list, we have the Witches series of Discworld that begins with Equal Rights, which I just finished. And I had read most of Discworld books before. There were some, after I stopped reading fiction, period. Pratchett came out with some more books, so those are the ones that I haven't read. But all of the Witches books, I had read all of them before. But when I was much younger. And so all of them were not my favorite. Equal Rights is the first one. This is a 5-book series, I think. So this should be pretty okay to be able to finish this. Equal Rights is fine, but it's still what Pratchett is really learning what Discworld is. Weird Sisters is one of my favorite Discworld books, period. So I'm super excited to read Weird Sisters. Witches Abroad and Lords and Ladies, I actively disliked. I guess it's a 6-book series. I actively disliked both Witches Abroad and Lords and Ladies when the last time I read it. I am convinced I will like them more now that I know more references. I think I will appreciate what is in these books way more than I did, you know, when last I read them. After that is Masquerade, which is, you know, Phantom of the Opera, which I was lukewarm on. And then Carpe Jugulum, which Granny Weatherwax versus Vampires, gold. I loved Carpe Jugulum, so I'm really excited to get to that one as well. So that's 6, right? Equal Rights, Weird Sisters, Witches Abroad, Lords and yeah, 6. So I finished City Watch last year. I'm hoping I can read more Discworld than just those 6 books, but definitely finish the Witches books. Next on the list is one I've been trying to finish for 2 years on BookTube now, and that's the Black Company books. I read the first 3 and then stopped. I just didn't have time. But the Black Company, and a lot of people don't read past the first one, and if they do, they finish the first trilogy and then stop, because even if they like it, it's just, yeah, but they didn't love it. The story that Black Company tells over its 10-book series is much, much, much greater than the sum of any of the individual books. By the time you get to the end of Soldiers Live, which is book 4 of the third kind of subset, the Glittering Stone books, the journey that you've taken with this company and everything that's happened is so memorable, and so, it's just, Glenn Cook has done something really special with it, but you really have to finish the whole tale. And so it's sad that most people don't get to experience the whole thing. The middle books especially, books 5 and 6, are not great. And so it's hard to get to those last 4 books. I unfortunately have 7 books, 7 books remaining, which sucks. And the last 3, She is the Darkness, Water Sleeps, and Soldiers Live, are pretty long. The ones in between that are short. But I do desperately want to finish Black Company. I've read this series 3 times, but the last time I read it was early college, so I don't know, 2002 or something like that. So 20 years ago. So I definitely want to try to finish this, at least make some more progress. But I want to finish it. No, I want to finish it. So maybe. We'll see. Black Company. And then the last series on this list is one I have no excuse to not finish, and that's Of Blood and Bone trilogy by John Gwynne. I read Time of Dread and Time of Blood, and just never got to Time of Courage. Part of it is that Time of Courage is about 200 pages longer than the first or the second book. And it's just hard to get to really long books right now because I'm trying to make progress. And so I'm trying to read more shorter books to tick those off rather than tackling these long books. But there's no excuse for not having finished Blood and Bone just yet. There's one book standing between me and completion. Hopefully I can get to that ASAP, check that off, so that when I'm checking in on this list, be like, yeah, nailed it. Got it like first 2 months of the year. So Of Blood and Bone, there is no excuse for me not having finished this by the end of the year. So that is definitely on this list. So what about you guys? Let me know in the comments if you are in the middle of a bunch of series. Give me your top 3 in the comments that you are bound and determined to complete. Not series that you want to start. These are series you've already started but have not yet finished. So let me know down in the comments which your top 3 series that you want to finish in 2022. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, information about my Patreon and Discord is down in the description, and I'll see you next time, guys.